A woman once tried to hit me with a wooden spoon in the middle of a busy market while yelling that I was worthless, and I just stood there and took it, even though the watch under my sleeve could have bought her entire building twice. Do you still believe money protects you? Or do you think sometimes money puts a target on your back? Let me ask you something even colder. If you had everything but no one who loved you for real, would you call that a good life or would you call that a prison? My name is Eric Raymond, and people like to say, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm young, I'm successful, I run one of the biggest telecom companies in the country. My face shows up in magazines I never agreed to pose for. I live in a mansion with marble floors that shine like water, and I park cars in that driveway that most people only ever see on posters. People look at me and say, Eric has it all. You know what nobody ever asks? If I'm actually happy. At night, I'd walk through that giant house past the crystal chandelier, past the perfect furniture, past the photos on the wall of me shaking hands with mayors and CEOs. And all I could hear was my own footsteps echoing around me. I could hear how empty it was. I could hear I was alone. That's the part success doesn't show you on Instagram. I tried dating. I tried loving people and letting people love me, or at least what I thought was love. Models, influencers, public figures, women who looked perfect in photos and knew exactly how to tilt their chin when a camera was on them. And for the first few days, they all said the same sweet things. You're so humble, you're not like other rich guys, I like you because you're real. And then slowly, it always became the same conversation. So how many properties do you own? Can you introduce me to your investors? My cousin has this business idea. You could change my life in one weekend. I don't think I could ever date a man who's not financially at your level. Someone really said that to my face across the dinner table, dead serious, no shame. I can't imagine being with someone who doesn't have money. I smiled at her, but inside I broke a little, because how are you supposed to build a life with someone who already told you losing money means losing their love? One night I couldn't sleep, and I went outside to the garden barefoot, in an old shirt and sweatpants, and I sat by the fountain behind the house. The air smelled like roses. The water was glowing in the moonlight. The whole scene looked like a rich man's commercial, peaceful and perfect, and I felt miserable. I remember whispering to nobody, how can somebody have everything and still feel like they have nothing? That was the night I told the truth for the first time. My driver Peter found me sitting out there, elbows on my knees, head down. Now Peter's not just my driver, the title's too small. He's been with our family since I was a kid. He knew my parents. He's the one person I actually let talk to me like I'm not my bank account. He said, "Sir, you've been out here for hours," and I told him I feel poor Peter. He looked at me confused, and I said, "Not poor in my pocket, poor in my heart. I have money, and I still feel like I have nothing. Let me ask you something, and I want you to really answer this in the comments, because it matters. Would you rather be loved for the money you can provide or not loved at all? Be honest. If it were you, what would you have done?" I thought that moment with Peter was going to be the hardest part of that week. It wasn't. The next morning, my mother showed up unannounced. My mother is not a soft woman, let me start there. She is kind, she is loving, but she is steel. She helped build this company with my father from nothing. And even now, when she walks into a room full of men in suits twice her age, she doesn't raise her voice, but everybody sits up straighter. She came in, hugged me, joked that I'd lost weight and needed to eat something that wasn't stress and coffee. And then she sat down across from me and said, "Eric, I need to tell you something important." Her smile looked tired that day, and I didn't like that. I said, "You're scaring me," and she took my hand and said, "I've been sick. I went for tests. It's cancer." They say maybe a year. In that moment, the whole world went quiet. I swear I couldn't hear anything but my heartbeat. You think because you have money, you'll be able to fix anything, right? Call the best doctors, fly her anywhere, pay whatever it costs. That was the first thing I said. We can handle this, and I'll get you whoever you need. I don't care what it costs. She just shook her head and said, "Some things are bigger than money, my son." I hated hearing that because it meant I was powerless. I don't do powerless very well. Then she told me why she really came. She said, "Before I go, I want one thing. I want to see you loved for real. I want to see you with a woman who loves you for who you are, not what you have. Your father and I, when we met, we had nothing. Not a house, not a car, nothing but each other. We built this life from the ground up. That's the love that lasts. You don't have that yet. And I don't want to leave this world without knowing someone will love you when I can't be here to protect you." I told her, and I meant it. That kind of love doesn't exist anymore. Not for people like me. The second they know my last name, it's over. She just looked at me and said, "So stop letting them know your last name." I said, "What is that supposed to mean?" And she said, "Disappear. Strip it all away. No mansion, no cars, no suits. Go out there and live like you're nobody. If a woman can love you, then that's the one." My first reaction, I laughed, like actually laughed. And I said, "Mom, you want me to pretend to be poor?" And she looked me dead in my face and said, "No. I want you to learn how to be loved without being rich." That hit harder than the cancer talk, I'm not kidding. That night I called Peter and said, "I need your help with something unusual." And he said, "Unusual how?" And I told him, "I need you to make me look like a beggar." He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Then he realized I was serious and just sighed like, "All right. If we're doing this, we're doing this." The next morning, Operation Find Real Love began. Peter brought me torn jeans, a faded shirt, busted slippers, this old cap that looked like it had been through 2 different owners and a fire, and he smudged dirt on my face and messed up my hair. I looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize myself. I didn't look like Mr. Raymond, sir. I looked like some tired man the city stopped noticing. Peter stepped back, nodded, and said, "Perfect. You look like the guys sitting by the market gates." And I said, "Wow. That's the best compliment I've gotten all year." And he just laughed. We drove to the big open market downtown, and if you've never really been in one of those places, not in a hurry, not in an SUV with tinted windows, but actually in it, let me paint it for you. The air was thick with heat and smoke, people shouting prices over each other, women frying plantain in oil that popped loud like fireworks. Kids weaving through traffic with school bags, men pushing wheelbarrows full of tomatoes, meat hanging on hooks. Corn roasting music blasting from 2 different speakers that weren't even in the same key. And for the first time in a long time, nobody cared that I existed. No one watched me. No one tried to impress me. Nobody called me sir. I sat down on the ground next to a couple guys who actually lived that life every day, cup in my hand, sun in my face, and it hit me. I was invisible. Then it happened. Pattern interrupt. This is where my life flips. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. A black SUV pulls up near the entrance, and this woman steps out. Tall, expensive, perfect nails, perfect hair, expensive sunglasses. The whole "I don't wait in lines" energy. I stand up a little, not even to beg, honestly, more like curiosity. I just wanted to feel what kind of person she really was. Before I can say one word, she turns eyes full of disgust and snaps, "Get away from me, you dirty man." And she shoves me with her bag so hard I almost fall. Loud, in public, people staring, and I just stood there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't pull the "Do you know who I am" card. That was the point. Nobody could know who I was, so I just took it. Then I heard a voice behind her go, "Hey, what is wrong with you? Why would you push him like that?" And that's how I met Lisa. Lisa was not dressed like money. She wasn't flashy. She didn't show up like "look at me." She had on a simple floral dress and sandals, her curly hair tied back, a basket of vegetables on her arm, and this calm kind of softness in her eyes. Not weak softness, warm softness. The kind you don't realize you've been missing. She stepped between me and that other woman, like it was nothing, and said, "Some people forget life can change at any moment." And then she turned to me, helped me up, and said, "Don't mind her. Are you all right?" No judgment, no fear, no you, just basic human respect. You think that's normal. It's not. She said, "My name's Lisa." And you and I almost slipped and said my full name out of habit. Because when you're rich, people always ask. And you are, and you're trained to answer with brand mode, so I caught myself and said, "Eric." She looked at me for a second, tilted her head, and said something that scared me for half a second. She goes, "You don't look like you belong out here." I tried to keep my face calm and said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "You talk different. Calm. Most men sitting on this side are either angry or tired. You don't sound like that." I told her I was new in the area, just trying to get through, and she nodded and said, "Well, welcome to the market, Eric," like she was personally giving me permission to exist there. Then she smiled and said she had to go help her mom, because their family runs a little restaurant in the back, and she just left like she didn't even know she'd just broken something open in me. I could not stop thinking about her. I went back the next day. I told Peter same spot, and he just grinned, because he already knew. I sat in the same place, same busted clothes, same plastic cup, same dirt on my face, and waited. A couple hours in, she came back. This time she wasn't alone. She had her sister with her, Ada. Now let me tell you about Ada. Ada is that sister who says exactly what's in her head with zero filter, zero volume control, and zero shame. Lisa walks up all happy like, "Eric, hey." And Ada looks at me and immediately goes, "Lisa, are you serious right now? What are you doing talking to a beggar like him? Have you lost it loud enough for people across the street to hear?" I wanted to crawl into the concrete. I didn't even get the chance to defend myself, because Lisa spun on her and snapped, "Stop. He's human, Ada, just like us. Maybe if you looked past people's clothes, you'd see that too." And I'm standing there like, wow. You ever see someone choose you out loud, in front of other people, in public? That's what it felt like. Then Lisa did something that honestly almost made me tear up in the middle of that noisy market. She opened a basket and handed me a warm plate wrapped in foil, and she said, "Here, from our restaurant. Eat something real." It was jollof rice, fried plantain, grilled fish, still hot, and she'd clearly made sure it wasn't leftovers. It wasn't scraps. It was like she wanted me to eat the same quality she would eat. That might not sound like a big deal to you, but when you're sitting on the ground, pretending to be nothing, and someone feeds you like you matter, that hits different. Day after day, I kept coming back. Not for money, for her. We'd talk between her deliveries. We'd walk slowly behind the stalls when the heat dropped and the sun got low. She told me about her dreams, helping her mom grow the restaurant, maybe starting a bakery, maybe doing catering for offices so her family could finally breathe a little. I told her in careful half-truths about a man I used to work for, and how generous he was, how I respected him, how I wanted to be like him one day. And yeah, I was talking about myself, but in a way I could say it without saying it. She listened. She looked at me like what I said mattered. Do you know how rare that is? You know what I mean. One evening we were walking, and she suddenly stopped, turned to me under this flickering street light, and said, real quiet, "You make me feel safe. I don't know why I talk so freely with you." My heart was pounding. I told her. Maybe because we understand each other, and she smiled a little and said, maybe, and for a second, the whole world felt soft. So I leaned in, slow, careful, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and I kissed her, and she kissed me back. That kiss was not wild. It wasn't movie dramatic. It was gentle, honest, shaking a little, like two people saying out loud what they were both already feeling. After that, she said, "Tomorrow, I want you to come to my mom's restaurant. I want her to meet you." I said yes without thinking. I should have thought. Because that's the day it blew up in my face. Let me set the scene. Her mom's place is this little market restaurant. Hot kitchen, loud pans, posters on the wall, people eating at plastic tables and laughing with their mouths full. It smells like pepper and fried plantain and smoke from the grill, not like some five-star place with tiny portions like real food that hugs you from the inside. Lisa walks me in with this proud smile and goes, "Mom, this is Eric and her mom." Everyone calls her Mama D. Turns around with this polite smile like, "Oh, hello," but the second she actually takes me in, that smile dies. She looks me up and down, slow, and her whole face hardens. "Lisa," she says, "please tell me you did not bring a beggar into my restaurant." Her voice is sharp. People turn to stare. Ada pops out from the back with a tray like, "That's him, that's the one I told you about." Mama D doesn't hold back. "You," she points at me, "if you're looking for free food, go somewhere else. Don't you people have shame? Leave my business before I throw you out myself." The whole restaurant is watching. Lisa is begging Mom, "Stop. He's my friend. He's kind." And her mother just gets angrier, like, "Friend? What kind of decent girl calls a street beggar her friend?" You want to embarrass me. And I'm standing there getting yelled at like I'm nothing. And I take it. I take it because I can't blow the cover. I take it because if I say, "Actually, ma'am, I'm a billionaire," the whole experiment is over and I never know if Lisa's heart was real. So I look at Lisa and I tell her softly, "It's okay. You don't have to apologize. She's your mother, I understand." And I walk out. Now hear me, because this is important. People always talk about the good parts, but I'm not going to lie to you. That moment almost ruined us. She chased me outside crying, saying, "I'm so sorry. Please don't be angry." And I told her, "I'm not angry at you," and I wasn't. But inside I felt something tear, because I knew I couldn't keep doing this forever. I couldn't keep letting her get hurt for protecting me. Here's the twist. And after I tell you this, I want you to tell me in the comments if you think I went too far. Me and Peter decided to test her. Yeah, we tested her love. Peter put on one of my expensive suits, took my Ferrari cleaned up like a politician, and drove right to Lisa's street the next morning. He steps out, flashes a smile, and goes, "Good morning, beautiful. I couldn't pass by without speaking to you." Ada almost dropped her basket. Lisa was polite. "Good morning, sir," and Peter hit her with everything. "I have houses, I have businesses, I could change your entire life today, just have lunch with me." Most people would at least pause. She didn't pause. She said, "I appreciate it, but I'm not interested. I already have someone." Peter laughed and said, "A woman like you already taken, I don't believe you," and Lisa said, "Believe it, I love him. He's not rich, but he's kind, and that's enough for me." When Peter came back and told me that, I sat down, and I swear I felt my chest go warm. She chose me, the man she thought was broke, over everything flashy standing right in front of her. That was the moment I said, she deserves to know the truth. So the next day, I stopped pretending. No more dirty shirt, no more busted shoes. I put on a suit, but not in a look-at-me way, just the way I actually dress. Peter drove me back to the market this time in the Rolls, and the second we pulled in, the noise dropped. People literally stopped talking. I got out, walked straight to Mama D's restaurant, and the whole market was watching like a movie crowd. Lisa walked out, wiping her hands on a towel, saw me cleaned up, and her face went white. Her mom looked at me, then at the car, then back at me, and you could see her doing math in her head like, "Wait a minute," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "My name is Eric Raymond. I own Raymond Telecommunications. I've been coming here in disguise because I was tired of being loved for money instead of my heart. And Lisa, you were the first person who treated me like a person before you knew any of this. In my head, I thought this was going to be the happy movie moment, right? Music swells, everybody claps. She runs into my arms. Yeah, that's not what happened. She just stared at me with tears in her eyes and said, 'You lied to me.' I tried to explain, I wasn't laughing at you, I wasn't playing with you. I just needed to know if love like yours was real." And she shook her head and said something I will never forget as long as I live. She said, "I don't want to be a test. I want it to be a choice." Then she pulled her hand away when I tried to reach for her and turned around and walked back into the restaurant in front of the entire market. And everyone just watched me standing there, in a suit, feeling smaller than I ever felt, sitting on the ground in dirty clothes. Yeah, that happened. I went home wrecked. I sat in that perfect mansion, glass staircase, quiet air, expensive silence, and I felt worse than I did before any of this started, before I was lonely. Now I'd touched something real and I thought I'd broken it. I kept replaying her words. I don't want to be a test. I want it to be a choice. Let me ask you, do you think she was right? Be honest. Do you think that's fair? Here's how it ended. I showed up at her place that night. No rolls, no suit. Just me, plain shirt, jeans shaking a little, and I asked her, "Give me 5 minutes. After that, if you want me gone, I'll go." She let me in. I told her everything. I told her about the nights in that big house where all that gold still felt cold. I told her about my mother's illness and how she asked me to find someone who would love me when she couldn't protect me anymore. I told her I didn't lie to laugh at her. I lied because I was tired of being used, tired of being a wallet with a face. I told her, "You gave me kindness when you thought I had nothing to offer you. You saw me when nobody else did, and I fell in love with you for that." She was crying by then. I was close. She said, "You embarrassed me. You let my own mother scream at you, and I still love you. I tried not to, but I do." That was it for me. I went down on one knee right there in her mother's living room with the smell of stew still in the air, and the cheap fan buzzing in the corner, pulled out a ring. Not some crazy trophy rock, just something honest, something beautiful. And I said, "Lisa, will you marry me? Not for the cars, not for the mansion, not for the last name, for this." And I put my hand on my chest, "Because my heart is already yours." She laughed through tears, covered her mouth, said yes. And I wish you could have seen my mother's face on the wedding day a few weeks later. She sat there watching and crying, the kind of tears that hold pride and relief, not pain. Lisa looked at me and said, "I loved you when I thought you were broke, and I'll love you no matter how much you have." And I promised her I would never hide from her again. I meant it. I still mean it. Now I'm going to leave you with this, because this is where people start arguing in the comments every single time I tell this story. Was I wrong? Was I wrong to lie about who I was just to protect my heart? Was I wrong to test her, to put her through that, to let her get judged and talked down to just so I could be sure she wasn't using me? Or, and this is the other side, in a world where people chase money more than they chase character, do you think I had a right to protect myself the only way I knew how? And what about her? Was she right to walk away from me in public and say I don't want to be a test, even after she told me she loved me? So talk to me. If you were Lisa, would you have forgiven me? If you were me, would you have done the same thing? Do you think love can survive a lie like that? Or do you think a lie means it was never really love in the first place? Drop your answer in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your city and your country. And if you've ever loved someone who only loved what you could give them, not who you are, I want to hear that story too.